Supo Shonibare is a lawyer, activist, and National Treasurer of the Afenifere. He joins me now to discuss statehood, clamor for restructuring, as well as enduring democracy in Nigeria. Thank you for giving us your time. Chief Adebanjo was an advocate of federalism and restructuring. What does true federalism mean in the context of Nigeria's statehood?
Good evening, viewers, and thank you for having me. Well, the position of Afenifere has always been, from the inception of what our founder, Chief Ayo set in place, is that a country that is comprised of, if you like, various ethnic nationalities have to operate a federal system. Federal system that does not concentrate power at the center. At the beginning of the independent Nigeria, what we operated was a federal system. It vested the powers and functions of issues like education, health, even policing, to the federating units. Since the military interregnum in January 1966, the Unification Act promulgated by General Agwin Ronsi brought about a unitary system. When Gowon took over after the counter coup in July, he continued with that unitary system, which concentrates power at the center. Chief Ayo found out at Britain a long time ago that there is no nationality that will ever survive as a stable polity if you do not devolve powers to the federating units of that country.
So it's expedient that that happens now. Let's talk about some of the submission at the event. Keynote speaker Dele Farotimi was quite aggressive when he says Nigeria is worse off today in comparison to what it was decades ago. To what extent do you agree with his submission, or is it an angry outburst, or we should rather look at it as a call to action?
Well, Mr. Farotimi was not the keynote speaker, but he was one of the contributors that spoke to the topic of where does Afenifere go from here, what's the future of Afenifere.
All right, thank you for the clarification. Yeah.
The keynote speaker was Mr. Solomon Asemota, SEN. But what Mr. Farotimi was, the postulation was making to the guests at the symposium is a fact that is a very live issue that we all live through. Standard of living has fallen drastically. We're contending with rising costs, living standards. We're contending with insecurity. We're contending with the judiciary that appears as if it's an extension of the ruling party. So all the indices do not augur well for a stable polity. And that's what we fear. We fear that the country requires, and even the constitution, as defective as the basic constitution is, constitution still separates power between the executive, which would be our governors and president of the center, the legislature, which would be at the state level, the state assemblies and the National Assembly, and the judiciary, which is supposed to be the arbiter intervening and ensuring that there's compliance with the constitution of the country. We don't see that happen. The legislature seems to be an extension of the executive. They even try to award themselves what they call constituency projects, contracts, which is not the function of a legislature there to make laws. And they seem this time around that this particular National Assembly seems to be just a rubber stamp assembly.
All right, let's take
the judiciary itself seems to.
Sorry to interject. I'm told we're time pressed at the moment, but I would like your particular thoughts on how elite politics is influencing conversations around restructuring in Nigeria. What could be the potential of going along with that debate, and how soon do you foresee a reality in terms of restructuring enough for the country?
But restructuring simply means devolution of powers. It just simply means not concentrating power at the center and not running a unitary system. If we do not, we are getting to a level where the oil that countries have been dependent on will soon run out. Even the value of selling crude as we move along will diminish because there are now alternative sources of energy. If we do not allow the federating units, which happen to be the states at this point in time, to be able to keep the earnings from the resources within their boundary, the country is bound to be a failed state. So the restructuring is just a description of the devolution of powers. We feel that unless we're able to vest powers to be able to be responsible for generating all the resources within the boundary of the state, and the state given a certain percentage to the center, unless we're able to do that, the country will continue to slide on the path of precipice. There will continue to be insecurity.
We hope not.
Because it's impossible to have a policing system where the policing is central. So all the issues are such that unless we restructure, which is unless we devolve powers to the federating units, the country will continue to rope in darkness.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.